The rain fell in silver streaks across the glass windows of Northbridge Industries, one of the biggest corporations in the city. Inside, men and women in sleek suits rushed down the hallways, clutching tablets and coffee cups. But when the elevator doors opened on the top floor, every head turned. Standing there, shivering slightly in her raincoat, was a little girl, no older than 8. In her small hands, she held a lunchbox wrapped in a faded blue cloth. "Can I see Mr. Carter, please?" she asked the receptionist, her voice soft but steady. The receptionist blinked in confusion. "Mr. Carter, the CEO. Sweetheart, do you have an appointment?" She shook her head. "No, ma'am, but my dad always brings Mr. Carter lunch every Friday. He's sick today, so I came instead." Inside the CEO's office, Richard Carter, a man in his early 50s, was buried in work. Deadlines, investors, reports, his world revolved around numbers and power. He barely looked up when his assistant entered. "Sir, there's a little girl here. Says she's brought your lunch." Richard frowned. "My lunch? I didn't order anything. She said her father usually brings it." For a moment, Richard's pen froze midair. Slowly, he leaned back in his chair. "Send her in." The little girl entered timidly, setting the blue-wrapped lunchbox on his desk. "Daddy said you like extra pickles," she said shyly. Richard stared at her, something tugging at his memory. "What's your father's name?" "Tommy. Tommy Harris." Richard's breath caught. He hadn't heard that name in months. Tommy, the janitor who'd worked late nights cleaning the executive floor, always greeting everyone with a smile. The same man Richard had talked to once or twice about life and family. How is he?" Richard asked quietly. "He's sick," the girl said. "He couldn't get out of bed today. But he told me it's important you get your lunch." She smiled proudly, but Richard could see the worry hiding behind her brave little face. He opened the lunchbox. Inside were 2 sandwiches, a cookie, and a folded napkin with a small note. In shaky handwriting, it read, "Greater than, didn't want to let you down, boss, Tommy." Richard felt something crack inside him. He hadn't thought much about the quiet janitor, just another face in the background of his high-rise world. But now, looking at this small girl standing in front of him, soaked from the rain, holding the same worn lunchbox her father must have used for years, something changed. He stood up. "Do you like chocolate milk?" The girl nodded. "Come on, let's go get some." They sat in the company cafe, a strange sight, the powerful CEO and the janitor's daughter, sipping milk and eating sandwiches together. Richard asked about her school, her dreams, and her dad. She spoke about how hard he worked, how he fixed things around the house even when he was tired, and how he said kindness was the only job that never ends. By the time she finished her cookie, Richard had already made up his mind. He called his assistant. "Find out which hospital Tommy Harris is in. Tell HR to grant him paid medical leave, full coverage. And make sure a care package gets sent to his home today." Then he looked back at the girl. "Your dad's a good man," he said softly. "And from today, you tell him his job's safe, forever." 2 days later, Richard visited the small hospital room. Tommy was pale but awake, surprise washing over his face when the CEO of Northbridge walked in carrying flowers and that same blue lunchbox. "I came to return something," Richard said, setting it down beside the bed. "And to say thank you." Tommy blinked, confused. "For what, sir?" "For reminding me what loyalty looks like," Richard replied. "Your daughter did that." Tommy's eyes welled with tears. "I didn't mean for her to bother you." "She didn't bother me," Richard said, his voice cracking. "She changed me." Weeks later, when Tommy recovered, he returned to work, not as a janitor, but as facilities supervisor. A promotion, a raise, and a future secured. Every Friday, Richard and Tommy shared lunch together, just like old times, only now it wasn't about status or hierarchy. It was about respect. And every time the little girl came to visit, she got free chocolate milk, from the vending machine that Richard had personally restocked himself. Ending. In a world obsessed with meetings, profits, and deals, sometimes it takes the smallest act, a little girl in a raincoat with her father's lunchbox, to remind us that success isn't measured by what we earn, but by the hearts we touch along the way.